Hey, y'all, it's Orlando. We just want to let you know that the views and opinions expressed during this podcast episode are those of the co-hosts and guests and not their sponsoring institutions. Now, let's start the show. Hello, Detroit and the world. Welcome to another episode of Authentically Detroit, broadcasting live here in our fair city. This episode is brought to you by the Ford Foundation and is a content partner to bridgedetroit.com. I'm Orlando Bailey.
And I'm Donna Givens-Davidson.
Thank you for listening in and supporting our efforts to build a platform for authentic voices for real people on the east side of Detroit. We want you to like, rate, and subscribe to our podcast on all platforms. Today, we are continuing our Detroit candidate series. Midterms are this year. We want to do our best to bring candidates directly to you, our listeners. A race that Donna and I are paying special close attention to is the 13th Congressional race that currently has 11 candidates in the field. Our interviews will culminate in a candidate debate in partnership with Detroit Action before the primaries in August. Sherry Gay-Dagnogo is one of those candidates, and she is joining us in our virtual studio today. Sherry currently serves as a Detroit Public School Community District Board member, and she is a former legislator in the Michigan State House. Sherry, welcome back to Authentically Detroit.
Thank you so much. And I love the way you say my name. Yeah.
Really? Am I saying it correctly?
Most people are not as courageous. They're not as courageous.
Am I saying it right? I'm not
perfectly enunciated.
Oh, great. Yes, we want to do our part to make sure that we get folks. I mean, if we could pronounce German names and Italian names, and they're not, we could get Sherry's name right.
You always do a great job.
Yes, it's a matter of respect. So
yes,
thank you.
I to say because he said it so well. I'm not quite there yet. I'm gonna struggle a little bit, but thanks for raising the bar and setting it so high, Orlando.
Anytime. Broadcast excellence.
See, that's what happens when you are co-hosting with an Emmy Award winner. A whole other level. You know what I'm saying? It's like,
oh my God, homegrown Emmy Award winner.
I'm just like broadcast okay.
I'm gonna find a way to get you back in this hour. I promise I'm gonna find a way to get you back. But we're fresh off of the weekend. It's Monday for those of you who are listening when we are recording this podcast. How was your weekend and how was the day finding you? Donna, how you doing?
I'm doing well. It's a beautiful day outside.
Beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Don't she with that gray and right there just a little bit
dignified.
That gray, when you see me tomorrow, you can say it's more than a little bit. It's like, okay, the camera's very kind because I'm like, whoa, look at all this gray. And so, I was going to dye it. Kevin said, no, I like it. And I was
I love it.
I love it. Distinguished.
Oh, thank you. So, women, it's harder, I think, for women sometimes to embrace going gray than it is for men for so many reasons. And maybe that's not true anymore, but it is for me anyway. But listen, I went to see X.
I'm going on Thursday.
Oh, my goodness. It was amazing.
You went to the premiere.
We did. We went
because you fancy, huh?
I saw it and I was like, I really want to go. I've never been to an opera, and so I'm trying to be classy. And I said, let's go. And so we get there, and
Detroit Excellence was in the house.
Yes, it was. And so it was great. It was. It takes a while to get used to opera as an art form, but I believe whenever you are exposed to a different art form, some of the songs, tonally, I wasn't quite there at first. And at first I had to realize, okay, you have to read some of these words right here because I can't really understand what the singers are saying. But it was a beautiful story. A lot of people went. If you have not read the book or watched the movie, listeners, I encourage you to do so because people are like, oh, I don't know what's going on. I'm like, okay. Said very few Black people in the world, but
right.
They do have a synopsis. And if his life story is not known to you, it's certainly available. Yes. They did a great job. Absolutely great job.
Sounds like a great weekend. Sherry, How is the day finding you?
The day's great. I mean, the weather's good. The sun is bright. It started out raining, and I thought it was going to be one of those slow days. But I mean, things have perked up and lightened up, and it was just like my campaign. Sun is shining. Had a great weekend. Went to church. I went to a church on the east side that I've never been to before. And I had never heard of before. But it was a message of love at Zion Hope Missionary
Pastor
Baptist.
Grant, Curtis L. Grant. Yeah.
I tell you, so let me just
Carrie
say
is
this.
that's my
really
world.
not an East Sider, right? She is like, because that's like an East Side
And
staple.
when I enjoy when I say I enjoy myself, I enjoy myself at that. His message was on point. And
Shout
so
out to Pastor
I'm not-
Curtis Grant. Shout out.
yes. And I'm not one of those people that sit down quietly at churches when it resonates. I'm like popping up like, yes. I know they're like,
have you
"Who's the new
seen
girl?"
this episode of the Braxtons? I've only seen this clip. And Tamar is in church and she's going, yes, clapping. And her sisters are just like, Tamar, if you just be quiet. She's like, nah, this is good. Y'all hearing this? This is good. That's you in church. That was you on Sunday.
Yes. And then I had my phone up. I'm like, I'm about to video, and I'm like, I couldn't get my Wi-Fi working. And they was like, oh no, we don't video here. And I was like,
Oh wow. The Urshers
so
against you.
they showed me the
Baptist
live,
Church Urshers
showed me
against
the
you.
live feed. I shared the live, but it was amazing. So he was gracious enough to allow me to speak, and I sang and I speak, and then it was just a great message was about love.
Yeah, and they're in their new edifice. So
It's
big ups,
beautiful.
big ups to Zion Hope and Pastor Grant.
I
We like
encourage
to
people.
go up.
Yeah, I encourage people to go. Service starts at 10. And it we were in, and I think we were out before 12. And then I went to Attorney Ben Johnson's out in West Bloomfield, and Senator Stabenow, Senator Gary Peters had Senator Durbin here, who's the chair of House Judiciary. And that was just surreal to have an opportunity to talk about the confirmation of our new justice, Ketanji Jackson Brown. Sometimes I do it backwards.
That's correct.
And it was great. Him telling the stories about that, and then I got a chance to talk to him afterwards about my criminal justice reform work and about my candidacy of running for Congress. And so it was just a great Sunday. Great Saturday was even great. I was in Highland Park and over there with Councilwoman Linda McDonald.
Yeah.
And some sisters over there that are running for office. She's running for mayor, and it was a great weekend.
Get around, Sherry.
You stay busy. You stay busy even when you're not campaigning. So this is even busier. I mean, the question is, when do you sleep? I forgot to mention on Saturday in the afternoon, I was at Boss Blue for the book signing of Dr. Roy Wilson's book, The Plum Tree Blossoms Even in Winter.
Oh, wow.
I saw that it was released.
Yes, I started reading this book. Boy, does he have a fascinating childhood.
It's a memoir, right?
It's an autobiography, it's a memoir. His childhood, he tells it all. He's very open with it. And so
I missed that.
It was, I encourage you to buy the book and really learn more about him. And I think what he wanted to do was inspire other young people who have challenges in life, especially early in life. I didn't read it, but I heard people referencing the fact that I've only started reading it, but people referenced the fact that he had a really hot temper. And he's a very laid back kind of person right now.
Yeah.
Overcoming your hot temper, especially with some of those people who are on the trustee board of Wayne State, he demonstrated some growth. And that just lets us know all things are possible through Christ our Lord who strengthens us. Because I'm telling you, the things they were saying. Anyway, it was a great Saturday. I got out and about. Orlando, how was your Saturday? How was your weekend?
My weekend, I'm trying to remember it because it's always a blur. It was good. I had a board party for One Detroit Credit Union. I chaired the board for One Detroit Credit Union, and we gathered Sunday afternoon for some grilled salmon and chicken and hors d'oeuvres, and just fellowshipped and had the opportunity to enjoy each other, date night with baby. So it was, everything, the weekend was good. Today is finding me in this state of, this mixed emotion of grief and anger, as I began to uncover and learn more about what happened in the city of Buffalo, and 10 people being shot to death, and 3 additional people being wounded by a radicalized young man who believes in white supremacy, who believes
18,
in
right?
this 18 years old, who believes who believes that the emerging majority is, replacing white folks in a really dominant way.
That sounds very
And
Hitler-esque to me.
yeah, yeah.
So,
Or,
is
but it sounds Hitler-esque, but I think there's a point to be made that it sounds Kyle Rittenhouse-esque.
that's what I mean is all of that. The philosophies are similar to those of Nazi Germany and other places where you've seen the extermination of people, because first you otherize them and then it makes it possible. But yeah, I mean, you're right. Kyle Rittenhouse is
there are contemporaries
he
can look to, right, that feed into what you're saying. I'm not disagreeing with you.
Yeah.
And I think that the pressure sometimes for us to show up as normal when we are not okay it blows me. I'm reading some of the names, and my friend Davita Davison made this point. When we read some of the names and we read the ages of some of the victims who are no longer here, these were elders. He took out elders who had already survived so much, who had already survived Jim Crow, who had already survived, so many things. And in 2022, that's how they exited this side of life. It is tiring, it is angering, and like I'm grieving. I'm grieving. I'm not 100%. I really something about this really just on Sunday and Saturday, my routine is to go to the market and pick up what I need for the week. I'm either there Sunday after church, or I'm there Saturday morning or early afternoon, doing what I normally do without a thought.
Right.
These folks were doing the same thing and met their maker. And so I want to talk to you, Sherry, a little bit later on about congressional solutions, not only to this kind of hate, but even around access to guns, as you are endeavoring, to become our representative in the 13th district. So that's how I'm doing. I'm good for the most part, but I'm mad. I am I'm upset.
So Orlando, you know what? It's amazing how, this all comes together. Yesterday, I was sitting at this event, and I didn't want to prolong the hour, but they asked for questions or comments, and actually that was one of the things that I spoke to, normalizing, saying it's okay that I'm not okay, especially in the African American community. Now, what I find interesting, I mean, this is appalling for anyone, but my first chief of staff, and I call him my political son, he's in his 30s, and he texts me. He has a daughter that just turned 2, and his birthday was yesterday, but he texts me in the dumps after this happened. As Black men, I'm just your reaction to this is very similar to his, and him just thinking about what do we have to do to make sure that, we or our children, and I think for him, I think he was processing as a dad, what do we do to make sure that our children are not victims of gun violence? And so talking about sensible gun legislation, talking about background checks, the fact that you can mail order guns and silencers, and they're making them, these things have to be addressed. And so getting a majority at the federal level is important, because we know that, I just got a survey, as a matter of fact, I think I shredded it. I'll make it happen. I got a survey the other day. If you're running for Congress, you get all kind of surveys. And it was a survey actually dealing, here it is.
But
Gun rights. Gun rights. They want gun rights. Can you get a load of that?
I think that we need to address gun rights, right? We definitely need to. We need to address AR-15s and the fact that people are able to walk around like that. But access to an AR-15 is not the reason he did what he did. It is the cultivation of hate, and it is a cultivation of white supremacy, and and it's open cultivation of hate. And so I read that when you engage in hate speech, there's a type of terrorism, I can't even remember the name of it, starts with an A, type of terrorism, which is indirect terrorism, where you have public officials saying the kinds of things that these people pick up.
Yes.
And it's allowed in the public square, where we are not treating our internal terrorists, who are the worst of all, as we would somebody who we still have to take off our shoes because of 9/11. And we have to make sure that we are addressing, you have all of the immigration and, travel bans on certain types of people because you've decided they're a threat. The internal threat, by all assessments of anybody who knows this, is so much worse than that. And we're doing very little about it. We saw the people who are plotting against Governor Whitmer walk away. We watched Kyle Rittenhouse walk away. And what gets me is that when this happens, there are Black people who really have a gun and are serving 5 years in prison just for holding one.
Absolutely.
So the disproportionate response and whatever, it feels like we're not taking it seriously.
No, it's because we're not. I mean, he was held by authorities last year for insinuating that he wanted to shoot up a school, and was released and was not placed on any kind of watch list. It is about political will in this country, because I can think back to J. Edgar Hoover's reign over the FBI and his disdain for the Black Panther Party, so much so that the threat of American security was due to the Black Panther Party. And what did they do?
But on his watch, President Kennedy was killed. His brother was assassinated. Martin Luther King was assassinated, and Malcolm X was assassinated. On his watch, you had more public assassinations of public figures than any time in American history. So even as he was spying on Council Pro, the KKK was still lynching us, still raping Black women, still bombing schools and bombing churches, and doing all of and bombing school buses in Pontiac. So I think that it's not new. We are newly aware of some of these things, and we're newly sensitized to it. But when you look back in American history, when have Black lives ever mattered? And that's the odd thing about it also. And this is an aside. I know we have to talk about today, but when I was leaving the Opera House, there's a cafe just directly across the street with a big sign that says Black Lives Matter. And it's got, album covers on the windows, and there's a bar in there. And I saw a bunch of white people in the Black Lives Matter bar. And so it's almost as though we have become something to be appropriated, and it's got this cachet and
absolutely
right. But the reality is we've lost the movement, and there are a couple bad leaders who may have taken off some money and done some things, but the movement is never more needed than now. We need to call it something else. That Black Lives Matter no longer works, but whatever.
No, right, yeah.
Right. And I think that we don't have an organized pushback against this, other than mourning and being upset. What are we doing to make demands as a community? I was at the NAACP dinner.
But Donna, what more can a community do, Donna? I don't know. I think we have for a long time been organized in our response, been targeted in our approach, elected the officials who said that they will get rid of it. I don't think it's us no more.
I'm not. Maybe it's not us, and maybe we've done all
I think we have a role in it. I think we have a role in it, and I think those that have deemed themselves the leaders and or position themselves as the leaders, if white corporations and people feel like once I deal with that leader, I've checked the box. And so I'm uncomfortable anytime I go down and I see all the new development that is taking place in downtown Detroit. I mean, like I stumbled up on a coffee place, and I forget the name of it, but right on Trumbull. And I was just like amazed that it's like, is there like a secret code that, how do you people know where, and I didn't mean to say you people, but how did you know? How do you know where this is, that this is happening? Like, how long have you all been here? It's right across from a car wash on Trumbull. And I was just like in shock. But it's like, we're like visitors in our own town. And that shouldn't be that way. The systemic racism that exists that prevents Black people from advancing and developing our own community, being the owners of these coffee houses that somehow are, now this renaissance that's occurring and everybody is flocking to them. But it kind of feels like you're a visitor. I mean, I was like it was maybe two or maybe three of us in this place of about 30 folks.
Yeah, and I get it, and I wasn't really trying to counter what you were saying, Donna, and I really want you to finish your point. But I think the point that I was trying to make is I think we sometimes internalize the onus being on us, and we got to fix it, and we take that seriously, and we try to figure it out, and we mobilize and we march, we do all of these things. But what's the role of how are white people stopping crazy white people from shooting us, and if not, how does that happen? Or do we
I think racism is as American as cherry pie. I think anti-Blackness is as American as cherry pie. Our nation was founded in that, right? And yes, we do need people who are allied with us and stuff like that. I don't know the answers, because I think if anybody knew the quick answers, we would have done it. But I do think that what ends up happening is a lot of times we internalize this pain. And we feel it, and it makes us ill. And if we don't find ways to outwardly express it and make demands, and sustain demands, right? So Colin Kaepernick kneeled. We stopped watching the NFL full of racists and everything for a couple of years, and we're back because that's my boy. And I think the issue is, do we have an attention span that allows us to take sustained action and demand it? Rockefeller Records decides they're going to have, it's a good ex, Snoop Dogg crip walks on stage on national TV, and we're cool. And I think the challenge is that there's always going to be people who commodify, buy us off, and take our attention span away. So I don't have the answers, but I do think that we have to ask the sustained question and work with sustained energy with each other. And I'm tired of people selling out the message or watering down the message or trying to make it such. You have, and I'll give an example, you've got a police chief running for governor right now who supported all this crap, okay? And there's people, oh, that's my man, I know him, he's my friend, he did this. When you don't even hold your own people accountable, because as much as Detroit police officers have done, so, and I have friends who are police officers, some of them, but I mean, the reality is when you look at the culture of policing in this city, even when you look at the way police behaved during protests a couple summers ago, then you really have to ask yourselves, have we taken sustained action, or will we allow ourselves to be pulled apart?
And I'm so glad that you mentioned that. And I know we got to move on, but it is an American issue. And it is not a partisan issue. It is an American issue. We had Black Lives Matter protesters in litigation under the leadership of a Democratic mayor. It's not a partisan issue. It's an American issue. Yeah. So, okay, we got to get to the hot takes. We're not even there yet. Listen, it's time for hot takes, where we run down some of the week's top headlines in the city of Detroit. For hot takes, 2022 Michigan petition drives tracker. This is out of Bridge, Detroit, and Bridge, Michigan. What to know about election proposals. And Donna, there are a lot of them. What say you?
Well, it's important to understand that there's really three types. One of them is that to amend the state's constitution, And if you want to amend the state's constitution, the deadline for that is July 11th at 5 p.m. To do so, you need 10% of the number of voters in the last gubernatorial election, which is 425,059 valid signatures. That's if you want to amend the state's constitution. If you want to establish a new law, you have until June 1st, 5 p.m. And with that, you need 340,047 ballot signatures, which is 8% of the last gubernatorial election. And the third is a referendum to repeal a newly enacted law, 90 days after the law is enacted. And with that, you only need 5% of the votes from the last election. So when you're trying to change the law, the state legislature can then adopt or reject petitions seeking new laws within 40 days. And that's really rare in Michigan. Most states, you don't have this. So the governor could veto a law. There's a petition drive to create that new law. And if the all Republican legislature in Michigan decides they're going to act on it within 40 days of getting enough valid signatures, that becomes law, and the governor cannot override that with a veto. And people need to understand that. And then, of course, the constitutional amendments go onto the general election ballot, as do the referendum petitions to repeal a law. Laws that are targeted of repeal are suspended pending the outcome of the election. It's important for us to understand how democracy works or doesn't work in our state. I'm really bothered by the idea that a petition drive can invalidate the governor's veto. And then the other issue I think it's important for people to understand is a lot of ballot petitions are deceptive. Read the whole thing.
Preach to the choir.
If somebody does not want to let you read it, do not sign it. Don't sign anything that you are not allowed to read. And even if you are allowed to read, then read it. But anyway, there's one of the referendums is voters for transparency and term limits. And this would basically limit the number of years people can serve in the state legislature to 12 years from 14 years, but they could serve it all in one house. So 2 terms in the state Senate, as opposed to mixing and matching state Senate with, 4 terms in the state Senate, I guess, as opposed to mixing and matching state Senate with state House seats. And then also state lawmakers, the governor, secretary of state, and state attorney general have to disclose certain types of financial information, not as much as many people want to see, but it would make it more transparent. So that is on the ballot. Secure the Michigan vote would require voter ID for in-person voting, require a partial social security numbers.
Listen to this. This is crazy.
Registration, require voters who don't present ID in person to present it within 6 days after the election, bar unsolicited absentee ballot applications, ban outside funding for elections, and restrict mail-in ballots. And provide
supremacy don't get tired.
Voter suppression.
Yeah. Provide voters with hardship with free IDs. So this is they act like this is the name of it is Secure the Michigan Vote. So it sounds like they want to
right. That's what's misleading. Right.
But the reality is not just these provisions, but the way they are enforced would be very damaging to Michigan residents. So we have to be very careful about that. And it's intended to suppress voting among senior citizens who vote absentee and others. There's other things I've mentioned there, like the length of time your signature can be considered valid. You have to sign your signature more often to have a valid signature. Anyway, promote the vote is the opposite. It seeks to amend the Constitution to allow 9 days of early vote, publicly subsidize absentee ballots, and a tracking system, continue to allow voters to sign an affidavit attesting to their identity rather than a state ID, allow public sources and charities to fund local elections, allow voters to register for absentee ballots for all future elections, require ballot drop boxes for every 15,000 voters in a municipality, and establish that post-election audits can only be conducted by state and local officials. So, as opposed to having political parties conduct audits, which is really crazy. Make sure if you're going to sign a voting law that you know which one that you're doing. Unlike Michigan, would limit the length of emergency orders from state or local health officials to 28 days. So if the pandemic returned to the full level of death and dying and hospitalizations, the governor would have less power. And Audit Michigan would force a forensic audit of the 2020,
which already happened.
It would force it. Now, this one has not gone before the board of that has not gone before the board of canvassers to the language. They're just going to collect signatures anyway. They're already violating it. And then Michigan right to vote is actually more expansive than the secure the vote. So, I mean, the other voting one. And then let Michigan kids learn. This is will provide for student opportunity scholarship program to pay for K-12. This is a school vouchers. And it allows for school vouchers or payment for people who are homeschooling their materials, and allows taxpayers to claim a tax credit for contributions made to the scholarship program. That's the Betsy DeVos thing. Raise the Michigan minimum wage from $9.87 to $15 per hour over 5 years, at which point $15 an hour won't be enough. And then reproductive freedom for all would amend the state constitution to repeal, would amend the state constitution to make reproductive freedom a right, repealing a decades-old law that makes abortion a felony. And then Michigan fair lending would cap interest rates for payday loans at 36%. And Michigan United has a proposal to repeal a truth in sentencing law that requires those convicted of certain crimes to serve their entire minimum sentences. And the measure would establish credits that reduce sentences for those who earn degrees or work in prison, among other provisions. There's another mushroom bill on there, Michigan Initiative for Community.
So much.
So if you like mushrooms and acid, and I did go see the Immersive Van Gogh exhibit, and I was like, wow, maybe if I had mushrooms, this could be really an expansive experience. And then finally, Decertify Michigan is my favorite one, where they want to decertify the 2020 presidential election, because
get out of here.
That makes sense. And that has not gone before the State Board of Canvassers at all. There's a lot. And I'm reading them all. It's important that people know, because everywhere you go, people have to stick a petition in front of you.
So I'm thankful for Bridge Detroit that did this.
You're
Do you guys
welcome.
remember it? Thank you. Remember in 2012, and thankful I have email, you can go back and search. But 2012, I was just, when you were reading them, I was like, wow, this is worse than then. There was Prop 1, Prop 2. We called it the longest ballot ever. And I worked with AFME and the UAW, and it was a group of us that went around educating people on the ballot initiatives. I'm concerned right now that we're 80 days or less, and no one's collectively in a comprehensive way educating the community.
These will appear on the November ballot, though. I don't need.
Yep.
But people are signing them right now.
That's right. They're signing up to get them on the ballot.
I was at Flower Days
right there.
You got the July deadline, you got the June deadline, and some people are just randomly, just to get people out their face, signing them.
No, listen, if you don't know what it says and you're not quite sure you agree with it, don't sign it.
Exactly.
Only sign it if you are certain you know what it's saying.
And they're paying a premium.
Don't read it once, read it twice. And if you still don't understand it, because sometimes language can be confusing, walk away.
Walk away. Say no, thank you.
No, thank you.
That's a great button to that hot take that wraps up hot takes. If you have pieces that you want discussed on the podcast, you can hit us up on our socials at Authentically Detroit on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, or you can email us at authenticallydetroit@gmail.com. Candidate for a congressional seat in the 13th district, Sherry Gay-Dagnogo, is with us here on Authentically Detroit, and we are excited to talk to her about her campaign. Sherry, okay, last time we spoke to you, you were considering an exploratory committee to look at a possible mayoral run. Yeah. You were fresh from your trip to a Trump White House to deliver a support letter advocating for the release of former Detroit Mayor Kwame Kilpatrick. You've since run and won a seat on the school. You've been busy.
I've been busy. Yes.
So your aspirations are always high. How did you arrive to wanting to run for the 13th congressional seat?
So I'm an educator, and I believe that basically the foundation of democracy, the foundation, the greatest equalizer is education. And, whether you come from a poor home, a single family home, wealthy home, if we could imagine a society where we all have equal access to a quality education, that would at least allow our community to get its footing. And so I, of course, went to the legislature, after teaching science with DPS and at a couple of charter schools to transform opportunity and transform the world. And so got there and found a myriad of other challenges. And prior to that, I was a staffer for city council for 9.5 years. So I've always taken my professional life to try and be a problem solver, to address problems in my community. And because I was born that way, because even as a young middle school and high school student, I was writing and I had positions on things. And, I ascribed to Shirley Chisholm and Lyndon Baines Johnson, just issues that I thought were unjust in my community. I always had a why, and maybe we can solve it this way. And so understanding the impact of education policy at its foundation is the key. And so addressing that at the state level, which was so challenging because number one, I came there on a mission to address the issues of inadequacy and inequality. And of course, I had a reputation going to the legislature. So they didn't even allow me to get on the education committee, actually. But they did put me on banking. And I knew nothing initially about banking. But I got a chance to learn about the savage inequalities that exist, as Donna talked about, in housing, the access to mortgages, fair mortgages, the access to capital for small business development in our community. And so I served on insurance and got a chance to understand the impact of redlining, the historical redlining that has impacted our ecosystem, our economic ecosystem. And so it all kind of goes together. Had a chance to serve and fight during my tenure for DPS, now DPS-CD, which they should have done an audit. But if they had done so, a number of people, I believe, would be going to jail because the money was spent without the consent of taxpayers understanding what happened to all of these buildings and schools that were built, some of which improperly, and all the money that went to contractors, many of which that did not look like us. And we see this pattern continues. And so, why is that important if you just want to educate kids? It's important when you see money that is being taken out of the classroom, taken out of the infrastructure for things that our kids need, and then we're still left with schools that have savage inequalities. But fighting for these issues, I had a chance to work on criminal justice reform, had an opportunity to push back and stop in 2017, the auto reform law that still went forward in 2018. But now taking that voice and that same presence, being a steward and study of Congressman John Conyers, Congresswoman Carolyn Keys Kilpatrick, understanding the process of appropriations and being able to, even in a Republican environment, to bring money home for infrastructure, but being a voice that would not succumb to what the will of our community leadership would want me to do. There were voices in our community. I still remember how insulting it was. Senator Jeff Hansen, a Republican, that I called pretty much every day, who was advancing the DPS-CD legislation. And I'm steady pushing back. And the people here locally saying, well, what's the problem? Move forward. I'm like, well, why should we move forward without a school board? Why should the largest district in the state of Michigan move forward without a school board? Why should we be treated any differently than any other school board, any other school district in the state? And so having that fight, that drive to always want to stand up for equality, equal access. And so that's what my leadership has been about, whether you transfer the conversation and the fight from education to auto insurance. Why should we pay more than anywhere else? Why should somebody at Mack and Alter on near Jefferson, just across the street in Grosse Pointe, pay more than the people in Grosse Pointe? And so these are the things that I continue to see, but I've also demonstrated the ability to be a unifier because I found that everybody on the other side of the aisle doesn't always, although they have some policy that are egregious, but there are sometimes that you can broker a path forward. And sometimes you even have to stand up to our own party and say, not on my watch. And so having
not on my watch.
I agree with you on that, Sherry, but I want to ask you a question about that. You and I have had this conversation before. You've had some really pointed criticisms of the Democratic Party, and I know a lot of people have. But the only thing worse than the Democratic Party in my eyes is the Republican Party, especially at a national level. I mean, Ketanji Brown Jackson would not have been confirmed.
Oh my God. Right.
You know, there's so many things that you're just not going to get with them. So I don't understand what deal making looks like with the Congress, Republican Congress, which seems to function as a political bloc in almost all instances without people selling out. So, you know, I see Joe Manchin and Sinema saying, listen, I'm going to be a swing person. I'm going to make deals. We heard Joe Biden say he was going to be a unifier. What does unity look like with you in Congress?
You know, yeah, that's a good question. And so certainly, you know, all politics is local. And so locally, when you find a path and an opportunity to address policies where there can be some trading, you find that pathway. And what I mean by that, so regardless of how passionate some people felt about Colonel Echu over the police department, who put up a Facebook post that said something egregious about football players taking a knee. My thing was this: taking her head off is not taking away racism, systemic racism that exists in the Michigan State Police Department. And so I didn't want to take an emotional move to just fire her because of a Facebook post, because what she thought in her heart, just because she, and at least I know who she is by what she put on Facebook. But what I did do was I sat down with Dick Posthumus and I sat down with Engler in our caucus, and I communicated with the Black Michigan State police officers to assess from them what's really going on. Is she really a racist? How does she treat you all? What are the real internal problems in MSP? They let me know that there are not enough African Americans that sit on MCOs, which is the governing body at the state level where all police are represented around our state. And so to have one person represented there, so I placed a demand for more representation from African American police and law enforcement, and making sure that even our local law enforcement is aware of that, and why aren't they taking their rightful place as the largest fraternal order and law enforcement organization in the state of Michigan. Making sure that I demanded an appropriation for greater investments in Black and local media. So that if you say you have a problem recruiting officers from African American communities, yet you are an overseer in communities where you say rates of crime has increased, we need to make sure that we have officers that look like us. If they're saying they can't do that, I need $1 million. I need $1 million to make sure that it's going to these local radio stations and talk shows, etc., so that they can recruit and retain from our community. And so getting those investments, when it came down to criminal justice reform, there is no way in God's green earth. And I was praying, begging, hoping on my last term that we would get the reform that was necessary. I tried it in my first term with repealing this mandatory sentencing guidelines. I was willing to go on a bill package with Kurt Heisey, who's white, is Judge Heisey, because if Maxine Waters, the same policy in Washington, is calling for that in Washington, I wanted to echo that locally. A lot of people say, well, why would you get on a package with him? Same thing when it came to the expungements and good moral character. So you have to be able to be in a position to negotiate. Now, DC is another horse. I'd be a freshman. Yes, I'd be a freshman. But I certainly, Cory Booker showed that you had to work also with the criminal justice reform laws that he was able to emerge, even with members on the other side of the aisle. So there are things that they've done that are very egregious. And I realize their politics are a lot more, I don't even know.
But can you give an example of a congressperson who has, in the past 4 years, worked on a bipartisan bill that has delivered the kind of change you would like to model? Who are you modeling yourself after?
So I'm modeling myself after Maxine Waters. I'm modeling myself after.
So what has she? What has Maxine Waters? And so Maxine is senator, right?
I'm not going for the Senate, but it's the same. It's the same animal. And so Cory Booker has worked with the Republican Party to advance criminal justice reform policies that really help the African American community. And so, I mean, that inspires me, and certainly is reflective in my work with the good moral character package, as well as the clean slate package. It's not, a panacea, but it is a move in the right direction.
Are there specifics though? What I mean, like I said, in the past 4 years, because it feels to me like Congress is at a stalemate. I'll be honest, you can't pass anything really. It seems really hard to move things through. And so as much as I love the concept of let's try to work with people we disagree with to get what we want, and obviously sometimes you have to, I'm trying to understand that being the organizing logic here. Because the other alternative I hear people say is, let's get more people to get some of these folks out so we can get the kind of legislation that we want to in DC. Is it either or? And if so, can you be specific about how you would use your role in that way?
So there are policies, and just like, okay, in voting for the confirmation of Justice Ketanji Jackson Brown, did we not have one Republican that would stand up and vote in the affirmative for this justice member? There are some instances in which you're able to. It's not easy. I won't pretend like it's easy, but there are some instances in which you can have conversations when it is beneficial for our community, it is beneficial for rural communities, inner city communities, that you come together and say, yes, we want to make sure that we have fair banking practices.
Yeah, I think there are instances where that you can point to. I think that vote being one of them, but I think all too often to the detriment of our neighborhoods, of our lives, Democrats tout this across the aisle message that doesn't work or resonate with me, or I think the average voter. I think the Democratic strategy to that is playing to the white moderate. They're not talking to us. And nobody wants to say it. Nobody wants to say that the strategy in this narrative of I'm going to work across the aisle, we're going to get bipartisan legislation. They ain't talking to Detroit. They ain't talking to Black people. They are talking to this hard to reach rural white moderate that is up for the swing vote. And let's be honest about it. And let's stop pandering or facilitating this belief that this happens and it's going to be great, and Republicans don't care to work with Democrats.
And the thing is that how many Republicans are running right now with I'm going to reach across the aisle and work with them?
And they ain't saying it.
I'm going to work to shut those liberal Democrats down. They run to destroy us, and we run to cooperate with them. And the question I have is, can you strike a deal with the devil and not end up selling your soul? And I'm not saying that you have, but I'm saying I feel too often that's the mantra. So for me, it's a trigger word. I want somebody to go to DC and fight for me. And I've seen you fight. I know you fight.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, we know you fight.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so I don't want to give the perception that my goal is to seek this middle passageway. I'm going to go down fighting, regardless to which party it is, if it's against my community. And so, I mean, I've made that crystal clear when it's come to our schools, when it's come to redlining. I mean, wrong is wrong, regardless of where it comes from. I think the vitriol is worse at the federal level because everybody is jockeying and trying to get to the next professional phase in their lives. And so anything that is anti-democratic often becomes, their platform, unfortunately. And they've become so far right. The folks that are running, I mean, it's like their own party don't even know how to contain them. So I get that. So please don't think that I would align myself with anything that would be destructive.
Your track
just
record
for the
says
matter
differently.
of making friends.
No, your track record definitely says differently. I think we're speaking to an overall Democratic strategy that just don't work.
Oh, absolutely.
And I'm tired of hearing it. Yeah.
And I believe also that if we are going to make that kind of change we need, and we're going against the Democratic Party, Republicans may not be who we're going with. Maybe we need to be aligning ourselves with the Green Party or something else. Now, I do have a question on that. Yes. And I've been asking this of other candidates. Do we need a change in DC leadership and Democrats? And the corollary to this question is, are the people who are running the Democratic Party too old to represent us?
I think, yeah. So I think I'm one of those people. I feel like I'm 55. I feel like I'm kind of like a gap dweller. Because I taught middle school, I have an affinity for smart young people. And I embrace them and like to see them thrust into leadership opportunities. But I think it's also important that they anchor themselves with the wisdom of our elders. And
Agreed.
so I think you have to have a mixture. But what I'm seeing for some of the same people that have held positions, even on the DNC, even some of our local leadership that have held these positions that where they should have been supporting Black women, as a Black woman who sat on the DNC for years, what have you done to help any of us? And I won't call no names, but you just about know who I'm talking about.
But I want to go back to anchoring on wisdom, right? Because so Nancy Pelosi, everybody should go to DC and anchor themselves to Nancy Pelosi's wisdom, because even though you're young, you have these ideas. This woman how old is Nancy Pelosi now?
She's in her 80s.
She is in her 80s. I mean,
right.
At what point is she say she's going to run for, she's going to run for the leadership again? And the question is, at what point do we allow people not to be burdened by leaders who are not connected to the problems of today? 82.
I think people are looking for fresh, new leadership. Certainly in a political party, there is value between paying your dues, having experience, putting your time in. But the people of today are looking for solutions. They're looking for people to get things done, and not always being beholden to an infrastructure that has existed before we were born. So I see the value in that. But again, I just believe that you can't just throw out everything that's old for what is new.
Come on now. This idea that if we say we need young people to assume leadership positions or throwing away old people, they still have their seats. They still have the ability to sit on committees and serve as advisors. But the president is 79. The Speaker of the House is 82. And the Senate Majority Leader is at 71 years old. At what point does anybody who is in their 40s or even 50s, come on now, have a chance?
You're preaching to the choir. I agree.
I think we're afraid to say it. I think we're afraid to say that there has been this tendency in our nation to push down younger voters at a time where school debt is out of control, but the people paying the debt are young people. Okay?
Absolutely.
The grandchildren of the people in Congress, okay? Where the climate crisis is out of control, but the people who will have to live to see that climate crisis, whose children will grow up in that, are not there. And so the thing is, we're perfectly comfortable with this, take your time with change, because we don't understand in senior political positions the urgency of now.
We need
some radical change. We need some radical change. We need student loan relief right now. So I'm a part of that generation.
And it's so funny how how our collective memory works, because everybody remembers the "I Have a Dream" stanza from Martin Luther King's March on Washington. But what he was talking about before Mahalia Jackson said, "Tell them about the dream, Martin," was this issue of incrementalism. In America, we'll get to it when it's time to get to it. He's like, no, make good on the check right now. Right now.
Yeah. When you think of the fact that he was 39 years old,
39.
Fascinated that he was 26 years old when he led the Birmingham bus boycotts. There's 39 years old. When you think about the age that Malcolm X was, speaking of Malcolm X, when he was out there on the streets demanding change and Black power, when you look at what's happening now, it's almost as though people don't want to get old. So we treat people who are fully adult and capable of leading as if they are small children. And it's a way to maintain our centeredness in the conversation. And I just think it's we've got to diversify leadership. We need something new on both sides of the aisle. We need to admit
diversify.
Diversify.
And it's too white. It is.
Yeah. I think it's more than, but you know what, Donna? I think it's more than them not wanting to become old. I think many of them don't want to become irrelevant because they have taken on these titles and the work to maintain a level of prominence with little to no results in a lot of instances. And I think, that's the place where our young people really have to continue to lift their voices. I always encourage young people, listen, if you're not in debt, if you don't have children, I'm not against people forming families, but I'm saying you're in the prime of your life and if you're not in debt, if you're not held down by family, you can make choices that are radical to advance change, because any change that ever really truly took place in America was by young voices and young people, because they're relentless. They're not beholden to anybody. They don't have to pay large house notes and car notes, so they can make their own choices.
Yes, and nobody is more idealistic than a young person, right?
Yeah,
young people are idealistic. As older you get, the more pragmatic you get. Well, and so we need.
They got to pay them bills. They got to pay them bills so they sell us out.
And you're used to having to lose your dreams or whatever it happens, but I think it needs to be a balance. Listen, I'll be 59 in September. I'm not one who only looks on one side of it, right? I get it. But what I'm saying is that you got to share power. You've got to share voice. You've got to share opportunity. And if you don't, then what ends up happening is you're not capable of representing the nation. Too old, too white, not enough diversity in the leadership ranks of America, and it is harming us in so many ways.
It's certainly harming the Democratic Party. It's certainly harming the Democratic Party.
Let me ask you about the top needs in the 13th Congressional District as you see it, as you are endeavoring to become the representative in Congress. What are you seeing? I heard you a little bit earlier talk about wanting to pursue an appropriator role. I think that is fitting for anybody in the 13th District. We have an appropriator right now. What are the needs that you see, and how would you work to address them?
So thank you. So I have, since day one that the Congresswoman announced her retirement, went into, what I know as an organizer. And I don't like to just superimpose my will or what I believe. I mean, this is a very diverse district. I mean, you got Wayne, Wyandotte, Southgate, Melvindale, Romulus, Highland Park, Harper Woods, all the Grosse Pointe, everything east of Wyoming, Southwest Detroit, Lincoln Park, Allen Park. This is a big melting pot, if you will, that has a very diverse economic base, whether you're looking at Taylor, Romulus, Hamtramck versus what you see in the Grosse Pointes. The issues of infrastructure has been a prevailing issue. The flooding in Dearborn Heights, Lower Jefferson, and the Grosse Pointe communities. Innovation that needs to take place. I mean, you got places like Highland Park that does not even have their own school district. And so they're looking to now, after the living under emergency managers, to start a 12th grade or a high school with one grade per year, and then kind of grow up. You have, a large block of women in this race. At one point, the numbers we had estimated was close to 65. I'm understanding it's closer to about 62% voting age population, which is women. So there's a high, embrace of pro-choice. Or a woman's right to choose is the lens from which I see it. Education is always an important issue. Based on some polling data, it didn't score as high as I believe it should. But education is certainly real. But jobs, access to jobs, affordable housing, the ability to just live. I mean, gas, the cost of gas being $4.50 for a regular. I mean, it's really hurting people. And we're talking about people working, and for just at the baseline of getting a fight for 15 for 3 gallons of gas. That's if you put it in scope. So these are a myriad of the issues that I'm seeing from different vantage points. I mean, you got Hamtramck, who's relying on a bunch into their city council meeting meters that they put in new, and the residents are upset about them. So they're trying to readjust the ticket costs. But they have a jail and a prison that's going to close, for which they have been deriving some of their tax base from. And so now their thought is, where do we get money from? I mean, you shouldn't have a little municipality like that trying to figure out where money is going to come from when we have, what about our expansion of 5G for real? What about, innovative companies in a knowledge-based economy? So forward thinking is what I would like to bring to the table, attracting new development and corporations without giving away a boatload of tax incentives, looking for ways that the federal government can incentivize that growth, because we are the state that really helped to build even during World War I and World War II. We got so stuck into just, I won't say just building cars, but I mean, we built
singular
right.
economies.
So we have to diversify, our economy. And I think that is more than anything, what's important, and making sure that we attract and retain the talent we have. We've been losing young people out of our state, not just the 13th district, out of our state for years. We're not populating our state with new child growth, children, being born into families, and then we have an aging population. So these are all things that we need to look at as we go forward. And so someone who served in the legislature, these are the things that I want to bring to the table. But I come from an organizing and reaching out to communities to learn what are the issues that are. And I was in Taylor today for a health fair, and I'm like, so what are the issues? Their issues, public safety and recreation. And then we went into the conversation because the mayor is a veteran, a former police officer, and we just started talking about mental health. There's not enough money, no matter which municipality you go to, for first responders. So first responders that are not even now taking the job, teachers that are not even taking the job, but then not even being supported with their emotional well-being after they've come through serving in the job. And so in order to normalize and bring some harmony and balance to our communities, we have to, again, make integrated health, make well-being, self-care a positive thing, and not allow people to walk around, being explosive. Our children, 2 years, those who have learned online, even parents having the kids home for 2 years due to COVID, all of us are suffering with some form of emotional stress and trauma. How do we address that?
There's issues of the entire area. But what about Detroit? This is authentically Detroit. What do you see as, then you're a Detroiter, the issues without, if there's a need to be inclusive, but what are some Detroit specific issues that you would work on?
Detroit specific issues is still the same thing, public safety. We need to address that. Mental health, we have gotten a fusion of dollars, but the way that it's been implemented in the partnerships, we need to rethink that.
Can you expand? I'm sorry to cut you off, but can you expand on what you mean when you say public safety?
We don't have enough officers in our communities. Our officers are stressed. The ones that we do have, we don't have enough officers, and we need to have community-based police officers. Our NPOs do a great job of working together with the community. Every Detroit birthday celebration, every community event, every Meals on Wheels of feeding our seniors, they've been integrated into that. That's the type of policing that we need to work together. Chief White has experience in the mental health community. And so making sure that we understand the difference between someone who is being a criminal versus someone who is having emotional stress and need to be treated with integrated health care, and identifying that, being a part of the community, incentivizing living in the community and not coming in and policing us from somewhere else. So better community partnerships and working together with our police officers. And I think that's what was missed when people talked about defunding the police. We want to remove that construct where they're coming in, not understanding the issues that we face on an everyday basis, not understanding the frustration, but be a part of our community, have relationships with our community so that we can minimize any stress or anything reflective of stress in our community. So that's the kind of partnerships I'm talking about.
Sure. We interviewed some of our young people for Authentic Youth Voice. No, is whatever. It was
Vaulted Youth Voices.
And we interviewed our young people. They did not have that perception of policing. They don't trust police. They feel as though there's been a lack of accountability and a lot of abuse. And they all subscribe to this. There were only 3 of them on the show that day, but they talked about a no snitch philosophy. The young people are the ones who are committing so much of the crime. How do you build those bridges back? I mean, getting more police officers is not going to fix it.
So more opportunity. You know, let me tell you what our young people are. They're frustrated because they were lied to. They were told to go to school.
That's what I'm talking about, Sherry. Sherry, that's not what I'm talking about. But Sherry, that's true. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a police officer can violate a person, do something that's illegal, engage in abusive behavior, and get away with it. And
no. Well, we had a whole police accountability package that we addressed at the state legislature level. And so here's where I go back to my Democratic colleagues that would not even support us introducing the legislation, asking us to wait and to stand down.
I remember this. I remember that.
Right. Yeah. So this is where the police officers that have done these type of things, and that's why I say we need to go back to the model where we incentivize residency, not just for our police officers, but for our teachers, because when you are a part of our community, and as opposed to people coming into our community, superimposing their culture, why are we standing in a congregated way? Why are they outside?
We can't hear you, Sherry.
You can't hear me?
There you go.
Okay, so sometimes my Wi-Fi does that. So that's the difference between a community-based approach and people who do not live in the community coming in to superimpose their will, their laws, their beliefs, their biases. So we have to have culture and sensitivity training for those who are not a part of our community. But for me, I would rather see the lion's share of our police officers be a part of our community and incentivize. You can't make them. That changed at the state level a long time ago. So I would love to bring that back, but that's a state legislator issue. So I don't want to lie and say that I could do that, but I would certainly incentivize that. But more than that, the partnerships that need to exist. We have a number of young people that should be recruited and be a part of our law enforcement and education. They want no part of it because they have seen years of the messages that Eric Garner, George Floyd, Breonna Taylor. So this is the information that they're receiving on a daily basis, and it should not be that way. Thankfully, we have not been as egregious as what we've seen across the nation. Grand Rapids is too close, though. So we need to turn around the construct of what community policing looks like. And I think having federal grants to support that with a mental health construct or a behavioral health well-being construct would be a model to go with.
All right. We want to ask you about a congressional solution against white supremacy, hate, and these massacres. Is there a congressional solution to what we just saw in Buffalo? And if so, what is it?
I don't want to place everything at the feet of behavioral health, but I think that anytime anyone who makes threats, there should be ongoing investigation, oversight. They should be on a list. There should be a way to make sure that is this person, what are they doing on their daily basis? If you make a threat about shooting up a school, why should you just be allowed to roam the country without anybody checking in to say, hey, what is going on? Our country is assessing and watching. Big brother and big sister is here. No matter how much we don't like cameras or the like, they exist. So someone like that should have been assessed mentally, should be tracked, and to make sure that there are interventions that are taking place. So
why is that a mental health issue and Black crime in cities a criminal justice issue?
You don't think that somebody is absolutely mental?
I think
in this day and time.
He's mental, but he was also a white supremacist.
I think when anybody kills somebody, there's a mental health construct there, right? If you go out there and you shoot into a crowd of 20 people in Detroit, you got a mental health construct. But the consequence there is policing. When it's a white man who wants to kill Black people, we think it's mental health. And but
let me say this.
As if that's not an actual belief system that is shared by many people in this nation. And there are now organizations that perpetuate that. But the street gang is a crime gang, and the white nationalist organization is unhealthy white people, because white people wouldn't kill unless they were crazy. I think
no. I resist that. I think for the most part, first of all, I think they are mental, but that does not excuse them or absolve them of the crime that they committed. That's number one. It's still a crime. Mental and all, you need to be locked away. And actually, for somebody that's taken the life of 10 other people, his life needs to be taken. So I'm for that. So let me just say that. And I'm crystal clear on that.
I'm just saying
hatred,
but what I'm saying, okay, what I'm saying is go to Oxford, Michigan. This kid is drawing bullets, taking bullets, talking about killing people, and everybody says, why didn't he get therapy? A black boy in Detroit takes a gun to school and they say he's going to jail, no excuses. It doesn't matter what his situation is. We've got to teach him a lesson. And nobody's talking about therapy. And I think that the way that we even describe these crimes is so unequal right now that it makes it difficult for me to see how we take it seriously.
No, well, so here's the situation. Here's what I think. And I saw the time crunch message. I think though, we can't solve overnight the hatred and bigotry that exists in this country. I fought for
We've been working at it for a long time. It won't be overnight.
For 6 terms. Wait a minute. Let me say this. I fought for 6 terms. How do we turn it? And here's what we got to have: an overarching plan and a black agenda, not just a Democratic agenda, but a black agenda. I fought like hell to try to get African American history to be implemented into statewide curriculum. So there will be a greater appreciation and understanding the contributions that Black people have made to this country, and the unwillingness to even give the bill a hearing every time I introduced it was unbelievable to me. And so there are white people that will forever think of Black people as substandard or to think of themselves as superior.
Your Black history class is not going to change that. I'm sorry, because
but it's not one thing though. It's not one thing. But it's a part of it.
It should be a crime to talk about killing Black people.
But a crime does not change.
You should be sent to prison for talking about killing Black people like this kid did. He was sent to a mental health institution. It's only a crime once you kill them. If a Black kid does something that's threatening, how many kids are expelled from school just because of small things, just because of behavior things? We need a
30-minute, we need an extension. What is it called with overtime? We need an overtime.
We do.
Because I think there's an element of us agreeing and conversion at some point. I'm not suggesting that when I say behavioral health or mental health, that again, that it absolves them of what is wrong. But the lawyers, the judges, the doctors, if people don't have an appreciation for, forget appreciation, truth of who built this country and the foundation upon the wealth of this country, then their children and their children's children and their children's children will never really know the truth of what our country.
We can't hear you.
Oh, I hate this internet. And so, AT&T.
Yeah, stay close. Just stay close.
So I said, if we don't ever have true African American history to address the ignorance that has been perpetuated from generations, from slave owners to their children and their children's children and their children's children, how are we going to ever get to the place where we address it? It's not the fix, Donna, but it is a part of it. And so this is an ecosystem. I think we have to take different vantage points for making sure that ignorance is addressed at all levels.
I'm not disagreeing with that.
Can't police out hate.
We over police Black kids all of the time. That's all I'm saying.
But I agree. I agree. But we do that locally. Can I say this? I was walking into a school board meeting the other day, and I surround myself around with young people because I just love young people. But when I walked into the school board meeting, the officer thought he was doing something. He said, "I'm not gonna tell y'all no more. I don't want y'all in my doorway." My mind, that sounds like a slave owner talking to slaves versus students. And so I've seen security guards, police officers talk to our own people in community. So we're gonna check, and I'm not saying that we excuse somebody else, but we have to think about the construct in which and how we view ourselves
I am
and how
not
we treat
disagreeing.
ourselves.
I'm
Oh,
not
we don't-
disagreeing with
yeah,
it
we
because
hear.
we have Black police officers mistreating Black people all of the time.
Absolutely.
I'm watching
Absolutely.
this HBO special right now, and it's on what happened in Baltimore. And I don't want to get into too much of this. All I'm saying is that
No overtime.
when you look at whether or not these things are criminal, the way that you discourage behavior is not just attitude checks, it's consequences. And if the consequences are too, if we look at this as the only reason people do this is because they have emotional problems that need to be addressed, then we're not looking at the fact that our culture has problems that need to be addressed. Because
but why is it one without the other?
You have
Why is it one
Marjorie
without-
Taylor Greene, because what I'm saying is it crazy to think like Marjorie Taylor Greene? Is it crazy to think like Carly? Is it crazy to think like Donald Trump? Is it crazy to think like
Absolutely.
Tucker Carlson?
Yes,
What the
absolutely.
reality is that this kind of behavior is normal for many people.
It's right
Normal
for them.
behavior,
Right.
normal thinking, normalized thinking, and somebody acting on thinking that is normal. And there's no consequences for it. There's no consequences for January 6th. There's no consequences for threatening to kill the governor. So we live in a society where there are too few consequences for one.
Kyle Rittenhouse is free.
And two, what'd you say?
Kyle Rittenhouse is free.
Yeah, okay.
Right,
And
absolutely.
too many for others.
Absolutely.
And,
But who are the people? Say, who are the people? So let's go to this. You're not going to make it a crime if you don't change the mindset of some of the people who have the power. It all goes together. And so I think
No, I
it's
see what
not
you're
one-
saying, Sherry. Yeah.
It's not one or the other. If they don't value Black lives, and I'm not talking about a Black Lives Movement matter issue. I said if they don't truly value Black lives, if there's no appreciation towards who Black people are in this country, then those who are making laws.
But what you're saying though, Sherry, is you're making
to Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson. I mean,
you're
come on
making
now.
though you're making an educational and moral appeal to folks who ain't moral or doesn't even want to see the humanity in Black folks or folks who are not white in many regards. And so my question, and we got into the commentary of it all, my question was really about what is the congressional agenda?
Expanding hate laws to address us. I mean, that was a commitment that President Biden made at the onset. We delivered the vote, and the check is still insufficient.
Yeah.
So that's what we have to do.
Okay.
Expand hate laws to really address Black lives, to make sure that they really do matter. And that's my resolve. That's my commitment.
All right. So our last question, we got to ask you about money. We ask you the money question. Number one, how is fundraising going? The first quarter reports, campaign finance reports had you at about $221,000. Where your money coming from? How are the endorsements coming in? Who's supporting you?
So we have a number of local municipal supporters. We have Councilwoman Virginia Williams from Romulus. We have Councilwoman Kelly Steck from Wyandotte. We have Councilwoman Glenda McDonald from Highland Park. We have council members, Council President Pro Tem James Tate, Councilwoman Letitia Johnson, Councilwoman Angela Callaway, Mayor Hindle in Harper Woods, a number of pastors, Commissioner Monique Baker McCormick. I believe that there are some labor groups that will be making some decisions very soon. We're still screening. Money is coming from, the majority of our money has come from small donations. I mean, we have some pretty nice donors that have maxed us out. If anybody's out there that wants to write a check for a max us out, it's $5,800 to Sherry Gay-Dagnogo for Congress.
Are you accepting any PAC money?
It depends on what the PAC is. So Higher Heights is a PAC. I would certainly accept that. Planned Parenthood is a PAC. I would support that. I would accept that. There are environmental PACs that I would certainly accept. So it depends on what the PAC is. Everybody has a PAC. It just depends on what PAC it is.
Cool. All right, y'all.
Labor unions have PACs. That's where they write their largest checks from. So certainly.
All right. We
Yeah,
got
I have a PAC. Strong Women Lead PAC.
I know. Yeah. We got to have you on again so we could talk about that. But number one, we want to tell you thank you for agreeing to come on with us. It was a joy having you back on with us, Sherry. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you. I appreciate you all. The dialogue is always rich. Iron sharpens iron. I think we got to have more conversations like this in our community. It's not just about always agreeing in the methodology in which we get things done. The fact that we are talking.
All right, Sherry is having some connectivity issues. We're going to try to get her back. But in the meantime, if you have topics that you want discussed on Authentically Detroit, you can hit us up on our socials at Authentically Detroit on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, or you can email us at authenticallydetroit@gmail.com. I think she's back with us. She had frozen for a little bit. It's time for shout outs. I will start, and then I'm going to punt to you two to shout out the folks you want to shout out. I would like to shout out the One Detroit Credit Union Board of Directors. I am so privileged to chair such an amazing organization with amazing leaders at the board level. It was really a great time having the opportunity to spend time with y'all over the weekend. I also want to shout out the newest addition to the Bridge Detroit team. King Coleman is coming to Bridge Detroit. And I want y'all to know, in case y'all thought we was playing, we not playing that Bridge Detroit. It's going down. Donna, Sherry, any shout outs?
Congratulations, Ken, and congratulations to your credit union board. I did serve on banking, and so the Michigan Credit Union League has always been my friend because I am a longstanding member of Service Credit Union.
Okay, you got to come to the league conference next month. It's coming to Detroit at the Renaissance. You got to show up.
I'm looking forward to it, and I'm looking forward to having a conversation with their PAC. I just want to shout out a father who is in heaven, Larnell Theodore Bird. Today is his birthday, May 16th, as well as our late Congressman John Conyers. His birthday is today as well, May 16th. So just want to shout them out. And to all the people on the area that has been helping us get the work done. I mean, it's been quite a task. We are a grassroots machine. This is campaign headquarters here at my house. And someone is always here helping to get the job done. So thank you, Team Sherry, for everything that you do. This is not my race, it's our race. And we're the team to get things done.
Nice. Hey, shout out to Stevie Wonder. Number one, happy birthday and congratulations on the honorary doctorate at Wayne State. Donna.
His birthday is today too?
No, his birthday was on Thursday.
Yeah.
Thursday, okay.
Yeah, I want to shout out Dr. Wilson at Wayne State for writing a book. It's certainly something I've wanted to do. He says he wrote it very quickly, but it's beautifully written, great story to learn about, one of our community leaders who's done great work transforming the university. I want to shout out my students at Columbia. We have one.
Because you're a professor where?
At Columbia University, School of Professional Studies. I watched the graduation. There's one student in particular who was not mine, but he was actually the head of the Black student, the school diversity committee, and his name is Hezekiah Walker. He's an amazing, brilliant young man who was actually voted student president and will be doing great things, a graduate from Jackson State University before he ended up at Columbia. But to all of my students who did great work, I love it. And then also to my associate, Emily.
All right, that's going to wrap up this episode of Authentically Detroit. We thank you so much for listening, and we want you to catch the wave.